We're back from the long weekend and ready to get going with this Tuesday edition of CNN Student News. I'm Carl Azus. First up on this inauguration day, some inaugural headlines. The official ceremony takes place today, but the inauguration festivities began over the weekend as hundreds of thousands of people braved the cold weather and gathered in the nation's capital for events leading up to today's swearing-in ceremony. On Sunday, the crowds came out for the We Are One concert, featuring artists like Bruce Springsteen, Usher, Sheryl Crow. The performance took place in the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, the same spot where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made his famous I Have a Dream speech in 1963. Yesterday, the country honored the life and work of the civil rights leader. Many people, including President-elect Barack Obama, did so by getting involved with some of the 12,000 service projects taking place across the nation. The president-elect spent part of his day helping out with renovations at a Washington area shelter for homeless teens. He urged Americans to help those in need by participating in the MLK Day of Service, and he spoke about the benefits of the event.
This country is great because of its people, and when all of our people are engaged and involved in making their community better, then we can accomplish anything.
And finally, today's inauguration marks the end of President George W. Bush's time in the Oval Office. He spent his last full day in the White House making calls to fellow world leaders, offering his farewells to presidents and prime ministers that he worked with during the past 8 years. President Bush was scheduled to take part in a reception for current and former members of his administration last night. He and First Lady Laura Bush are expected to leave Washington for Texas today after the inauguration is over. Well, if you won't be near a TV, it's no problem. You can watch the entire inauguration at CNN.com live. From the morning's parade to the evening's parties, check out all the inaugural festivities and watch as Barack Obama is sworn in as the 44th President of the United States. Plus, use our learning activity and one sheet to expand your inaugural experience. You'll find those free resources in the Spotlight section on CNNStudentNews.com.
A word to the wise. Impede. To interfere with or slow the progress of something.
Humanitarian agencies are hoping to be unimpeded in their efforts to reach victims of the recent fighting in Gaza, now that both Israelis and Palestinians have declared a ceasefire. Both sides made separate announcements after weeks of clashes between Israeli forces and Hamas militants inside the Palestinian territory. Nick Robertson has the latest details on the situation.
Israel's army has pulled back. In the fields outside Gaza, tanks and artillery crowd the hillside, ready for a complete withdrawal. Some reservists are already leaving combat. All troops, according to a Foreign Ministry official, could be out of Gaza by President-elect Barack Obama's inauguration, 7 p.m. Israel time Tuesday. It's an uneasy truce right now. It's almost silent up here overlooking Gaza. All you can hear is the drone of the Israeli surveillance aircraft looking down on the streets, monitoring what's going on. At the border, Israel's newly appointed post-conflict humanitarian coordinator has opened a health center to help Palestinians. The government's message that despite so many hundreds of civilian deaths and reports of thousands of injuries in Gaza, they want to help the people.
First of all, we've increased dramatically the amount of inflow of trucks of humanitarian goods and services, including food, medical supplies and the like.
At border crossings, a more complex picture is emerging. Humanitarian help is not getting through the way aid agencies say it needs to.
Mercy Corps and the other colleague agencies that we work with closely are not experiencing this at all, and we're very frustrated and really, demanding unimpeded access for humanitarian aid workers.
After 3 weeks of bombardment, aid officials estimate tens of thousands are displaced. Most of the 1.5 million people in need of food assistance. Getting help in fast is critical.
There's reports that over 4,000 homes have been destroyed and about 20,000 have been severely damaged. So these people need plastic sheeting and materials so they can fix their homes.
The army says it needs to be cautious and see if Hamas will hold the ceasefire.
As the quiet continues, we'll be able to open up the border with more security. Let's not forget that every time we've had a lull in our fighting to enable humanitarian aid to go through, we've been hit with mortars and rockets. We've even seen contraband going through with those supplies.
For now, in Gaza, no bombs dropping is almost relief enough. And the aid that is getting through so far, more than 130 trucks this day, according to the Israel Defense Force, welcome help. On the Israeli side of the border, troops relax, reflect on the conflict, enjoying their first day without rockets for almost 4 weeks. Nick Robertson, CNN, on the Israel-Gaza border.
Time for the shout-out. Who was the first U.S. president to take the inaugural oath from his father? Was it John Quincy Adams, Calvin Coolidge, Franklin D. Roosevelt, or George W. Bush? You've got 3 seconds. Go! In 1923, Calvin Coolidge took the oath from his father, a justice of the peace. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out.
Most presidents have been sworn in by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, but President Coolidge's choice to have his father swear him into office isn't the only inaugural adjustment. In fact, there's not a whole lot about the inauguration that is actually required by law. Still, every president for nearly 220 years has taken part in the tradition, even as it has made some significant changes.
Inauguration Day was a lot warmer for our first president than our 44th. Then again, Washington wasn't in Washington when he took the oath of office. He was in New York at the end of April, and it took him 57 days to get there from New Jersey. Things moved slower back in the day. For many years, the inauguration was scheduled for March 4th, giving electors 4 months to travel to the Capitol after Election Day.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Shortly after Franklin D. Roosevelt took office in 1933, though, Congress ratified the 20th Amendment. That scheduled I-Day for January 20th, and it still goes.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
You can thank the Constitution for that phrase. The 35-word oath of office is the only part of the inauguration required by law. The words at the end, "So help me God," were added by Mr. Washington himself because he was so moved by the honor of the presidency. Everyone since him has said it, even though it's not required.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
As far as the inauguration speech goes, it is strictly tradition. Our first president gave the shortest at 135 words. Our ninth, William Henry Harrison, gave the longest at almost 8,500 words. But that didn't work out so well. It was bitterly cold when Harrison gave it, and he died a month later of pneumonia, likely brought on during Inauguration Day. But traditionally, this is a time to celebrate, and the parades and inaugural ball events you see today are as old as the U.S. presidency itself.
Enough about inaugural history. We want to hear your thoughts on today's event. Turn on those video cameras and send us an iReport, whether it's about the ceremony, the speeches, the parade, or parties. We want you to let us know what you thought about any or all of it. Just remember to get your folks' permission first, then head to cnnstudentnews.com to submit your videos to us. Well, before we go today, there's this London gym that's trying out some new equipment. If you hate it when you're trying to get in a workout and some dude jumps on your back, well, that is the point at Gym Box. The facility has replaced some of its weights with actual people. The human helpers range from 66 to 341 pounds. The owner came up with the idea to help customers visualize what they're lifting. It's just one more way for folks to watch their weight. You guys have a great day. For CNN Student News, I'm Carl Azuz.